Cinderella's two sisters were asked to come, so they called Cinderella and said, "Now, comb our hair, brush our shoes, and tie our sashes for us, for we are going to dance at the king's feast." Then she did as she was told, but when all was done she could not help crying, for she thought to herself she would have liked to go to the dance too, and at last she begged her mother very hard to let her go. "You, Cinderella," said she, "you who have nothing to wear, no clothes at all, and who cannot even dance, you want to go to the ball." And when she kept on begging to get rid of her, she said at last, "I will throw this basin full of peas into the ash heap, and if you have picked them all out in 2 hours' time you shall go to the feast too." Then she threw the peas into the ashes, but the little maiden ran out at the back door into the garden, and cried out, "Hither, hither, through the sky, turtle doves and linnets, fly. Blackbird, thrush, and chaffinch gay, hither, hither, haste away. One and all, come, help me quick, haste ye, pick, pick, pick." Then first came 2 white doves, and next 2 turtle doves, and after them all the little birds under heaven came, and the little doves stooped their heads down and set to work, pick, 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 and then the others began to pick, 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 and picked out all the good grain and put it into a dish, and left the ashes. At the end of 1 hour the work was done, and all flew out again at the windows. Then she brought the dish to her mother, but the mother said, "No, no, indeed, you have no clothes and cannot dance, you shall not go." And when Cinderella begged very hard to go, she said, "If you can in 1 hour's time pick 2 of these dishes of peas out of the ashes, you shall go too." So she shook 2 dishes of peas into the ashes, but the little maiden went out into the garden at the back of the house, and called as before, and all the birds came flying, and in half an hour's time all was done, and out they flew again. And then Cinderella took the dishes to her mother, rejoicing to think that she should now go to the ball. But her mother said, "It is all of no use, you cannot go, you have no clothes, and cannot dance, and you would only put us to shame." And off she went with her 2 daughters to the feast. Now when all were gone, So he waited till her father came home and told him that the unknown maiden who had been at the feast had hidden herself in the pigeon house. But when they had broken open the door, they found no one within, and as they came back into the house, Cinderella lay, as she always did, in her dirty frock by the ashes, for she had run as quickly as she could through the pigeon house and onto the hazel tree, and had there taken off her beautiful clothes, and laid them beneath the tree, that the bird might carry them away, and had seated herself amid the ashes again in her little old frock. The next day, when the feast was again held, and her father, mother, and sisters were gone, Cinderella went to the hazel tree, and all happened as the evening before. The king's son, who was waiting for her, took her by the hand and danced with her, and, when anyone asked her to dance, he said as before, "This lady is dancing with me." When night came she wanted to go home, and the king's son went with her, but she sprang away from him all at once into the garden behind her father's house. In this garden stood a fine large pear tree, and Cinderella jumped up into it without being seen. Then the king's son waited till her father came home, and said to him, "The unknown lady has slipped away, and I think she must have sprung into the pear tree." The father ordered an axe to be brought, and they cut down the tree, but found no one upon it. And when they came back into the kitchen, there lay Cinderella in the ashes as usual, for she had slipped down on the other side of the tree, and carried her beautiful clothes back to the bird at the hazel tree.